watching the Diamond News Desk at 8. My name is Tapewa Ngoma. For the next couple of minutes, we'll be running through business stories that are making headlines this evening. What we will look at is a tax hike on government securities, sparking mixed reactions. Later on, Yusuf Dodia commends 11 billion kwacha debt service for June 2025. We have the kwacha's performance as well as the commodity prices also coming up. Stay tuned. Let's get straight to business. The government's proposal to raise the withholding tax on interest income from government securities from 15% to 20% has triggered mixed reactions from stakeholders. Center for Trade Policy and Development (CTPD) lead public finance researcher Robert Mwale has welcomed the move, saying the move will help broaden the country's tax base and promote greater equity in tax collection. Meanwhile, Economics Association of Zambia President, economist Dr. Oswald Mungule, has, however, cautioned the move, saying it will dampen investor appetite and affect capital inflows. And economic analyst Kelvin Chisanga has warned that the increased tax burden on interest income could reduce net returns for both foreign and institutional investors, potentially leading to a lower participation in treasury auctions and a rise in the government's cost of borrowing.
A government proposal to increase withholding tax on interest income from government securities from 15% to 20% has triggered mixed reactions from stakeholders, with some welcoming it as a progressive move, while others caution it could undermine investor confidence. The measure was among several revenue-enhancing interventions announced by Finance and National Planning Minister Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane last week as he presented a supplementary budget to Parliament aimed at plugging fiscal gaps and supporting ongoing economic reforms. Dr. Msokotwane defended the tax adjustment as a necessary step to ensure equity in tax system and to raise domestic revenue without overburdening consumption-based taxes. The Center for Trade Policy and Development has backed the proposal, describing it as a forward-looking measure that will help broaden Zambia's tax base.
This is a move that we advocate for, and we feel by having such progressive taxation tax system, we may be actually going into a direction where we are going to see a lot of relief being given to the formerly employed, where they begin also to contribute a fair share of their taxes, and we ensure that even the high net worth individuals also contribute a fair share of their taxes.
But not all experts are convinced of the benefits. Economic analyst Kelvin Chisanga warns that the increased tax burden on interest income could significantly reduce net returns for both foreign and institutional investors.
So what we see basically interplaying here is that the net return for most of the investors, both local and international, will be able to have some sort of like censure around some of these investment pattern way before they undertake them. So what we see is a situation where it's now raising a number of key fundamental conditions that we should be able to see. And what we'll be able to see going forward is that we have less appetite toward driving that 14.8 billion, which we need to realize through domestic contraction.
Echoing similar concerns, Economic Association of Zambia President Oswald Mungule points out that the tax hike could make government securities less attractive to investors.
This means that higher withholding tax is likely to reduce the net return on government securities, making them less attractive to both domestic and foreign investors. This could, one, lower demand for government bonds and treasury bills, and two, increase the cost of borrowing for the government if it needs to offer higher yields to attract investors. The next potential negative effect is the capital flight risk. Here, investors may shift their portfolios from countries with more favorable tax regimes.
As the country continues its post-debt restructuring recovery, policymakers face the delicate balancing act of raising domestic revenues while maintaining investor confidence in the country's financial markets. Rachel Mumba for Diamond News.
Economic analyst Yusuf Dodia has commended government for disbursing 22.9 billion kwacha in June 2025 to support public services, marking the highest monthly disbursement so far this year. Out of the total amount disbursed, 11 billion kwacha went towards debt servicing, while 5.1 billion kwacha was allocated for the public service wage bill. An additional 3.7 billion kwacha supported social protection and subsidies. Mr. Dodia says the government is on the right path by prioritizing debt servicing, noting that such consistency boosts economic confidence and reassures lenders. He has, however, urged the government to complement these efforts by implementing stronger export proceeds tracking mechanisms to spur long-term economic growth and reduce over-reliance on borrowing.
We have to service that debt. Otherwise, delinquent creditors where the international community would not lend us any money if we can't service our debt. And you know that in the last 2 or 3 years, government has spent time in debt restructuring, but debt restructuring does not mean debt forgiveness. It means that the debt is being rescheduled in such a way that government can service debt, but at the same time, government can spend money on building the economy. So debt servicing is not something you can sweep under the carpet. You have to deal with it. So I think government is staying on course, which is important. But I do feel that there are other mechanisms we can use that help this economy to grow. And one of them is the recent application of the export proceeds tracking framework, which, as you have noticed in the last 4 to 5 weeks, has improved the value of the kwacha from 28 kwacha to $1 to now it went to a high, if you like, of $22 to 22 kwacha to $1. That was an increase in value of about 20 to 25%. And this is the trajectory I think that we need to stick to. We need to look at how we can strengthen our currency and benefit from the export earnings.
If it's not clocking to you yet that I'm standing on business this evening, now we're going to move our attention into what's making headlines as far as the Forex news and how the kwacha has performed this day as of close of business today. We'll also take a look at the kwacha's performance and its impact on your commodity prices. Let's take a look now at the kwacha's performance as of close of business today, starting with its buying power. The USD's buying power in kwacha terms at 23 kwacha 15 ngwe. Very good start there, and it was selling at 23 kwacha 92 ngwe. We have seen the kwacha's dance here between 23 kwacha and 24 kwacha, with the extreme in the past couple of weeks going to about 24 kwacha. So very good performance by the kwacha. Do note that these rates are brought to you by the Zambia National Commercial Bank and are indicative depending on which bank you are sourcing from. Those were your money markets. Let's now shift our attention to our construction commodity prices. Our construction commodity prices brought to you by the Zambia National Building Society will show you how much you'll be purchasing different items in the line or business of construction. Let's start off first with a drywall steel finishing wood handle plastering trowel, and this will cost you nothing more than 425 kwacha. Our next item, we'll be looking at some safety boots that you may need if you are doing some construction work. These are black, very stylish, and these will cost you somewhere around 1,300 kwacha. Do note that these prices are brought to you by the Zambia National Building Society, and we encourage you to go build your dream home. Those are our construction prices. Let's take a look at our commodity prices, starting with our food items and later on our non-food items. Your commodity prices this evening will show you the average price of your goods when you go out to shop. Let's start with our food items. Starting with 1 kg of beef that has been at an average of 110 kwacha for the past couple of weeks. 1 kg of sugar, nothing more than 37 kwacha. If you want double the size, it will cost you between 67 and 70 kwacha. 1 tray of eggs, nothing more than 115 kwacha. 2.5 liters of cooking oil, between 164 and 180 kwacha. If you are a baker, you may need some flour. 89 kwacha for a 2.5 kg bag. Staple food, breakfast milling meal for homes that prefer breakfast milling meal. That will cost you between 260 and 310. If you prefer roller milling meal, it will cost you nothing more than 240 kwacha. Cheaper alternative. Let's shift our attention to our non-food items to see how much we're purchasing those. 10 rolls of toilet paper at 85 kwacha. 1 bar of multi-purpose soap between 35 kwacha and 45 kwacha. 500 grams of washing powder, nothing more than 45 kwacha. Let's close it off with 750 mils of liquid hand wash. That will cost you at an average of 45 kwacha. These altogether are your commodity prices. And that brings us to the end of our business news this evening. Thanks so much for tuning in. You might want to stay where you are because in a few minutes, I will be back. And this time around, giving you your investment news. So stay tuned.